did you keep this secret?
Man, Marvel's good at that. They know how to keep things hush-hush. Anytime Ryan calls, I know it's going to be something fun.
They will prepare for that a million different ways. They will tell journalists what they can and cannot.
Chris Evans doesn't speak unless he means it. He's one of the most private, respected actors in Hollywood. Someone who avoids drama, stays in his lane, and lets his work speak for itself. But now, that silence is starting to shift. After working alongside Ryan Reynolds on Deadpool and Wolverine, fans say Chris Evans noticed something off. The energy on set was strange. Ryan and Blake were acting weird around him, and now Chris is dropping cryptic clues that he might have been targeted, the same way Justin Baldoni claims he was. And it gets even deeper when you remember who Chris is close to, Scarlett Johansson, Ryan's ex-wife. Because according to insiders, Scarlett may have warned him about all of this years ago. If what Chris just hinted at is true, then this story is much bigger than we thought. From the moment he stepped on set for his Deadpool and Wolverine cameo, Chris Evans reportedly sensed something strange. Sources say Ryan was unusually intense, micromanaging lines, tweaking performances, even standing behind the camera during takes that didn't involve him. Blake Lively, who wasn't even officially part of the production team, was allegedly there almost every day. Chris, who's known for his intuition, told a friend later that he felt like he was being watched, like he was being measured. It didn't feel like a casual cameo, it felt like a test, and it wasn't just the usual Hollywood nerves. Chris has filmed with some of the biggest names in the industry, from Robert Downey Jr. to Anthony Mackie, and he's never described this kind of discomfort before. According to insiders, he said the entire experience felt manufactured, like someone was waiting for him to slip up. Fans now believe Blake and Ryan were sizing him up, just like they allegedly did with Justin Baldoni before everything blew up. And Chris wasn't walking in blind, he'd already been warned, and that warning was coming from someone who had seen it all up close, Scarlett Johansson. Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson are more than co-stars. They're lifelong friends. They've worked on 9 films together, traveled the world, and built a bond most actors can only hope for. Their chemistry on screen is undeniable, but off-screen, their friendship runs even deeper. They've been there for each other through career highs and personal heartbreaks, and sources say Scarlett has always felt she could trust Chris with things she'd never tell anyone else. After Scarlett's marriage to Ryan Reynolds ended in 2011, she reportedly opened up to Chris about what really happened behind the scenes. According to insiders, she described Ryan as passive-aggressive, jealous, and emotionally manipulative. She told Chris that Ryan had a need for control, and that behind the charm was someone entirely different. It wasn't a bitter rant. It was quiet, honest, and raw. Scarlett didn't want sympathy. She just wanted someone to know the truth. Sources claim Scarlett specifically told Chris to trust your gut if he ever worked with Ryan, and when Blake Lively's name came up, she got quiet. According to one insider, Scarlett said, "Just be careful, there's more to that relationship than people see." At the time, Chris didn't think much of it, but now that he's experienced their dynamic firsthand, those warnings may be ringing louder than ever. And with everything happening around Ryan and Blake, it seems like Scarlett's past may be repeating itself, this time aimed at someone she cares about. When the Justin Baldoni lawsuit made headlines, alleging that Ryan and Blake blacklisted him, manipulated media narratives, and quietly destroyed his career, Chris reportedly took notice. Sources close to Evans say he found the claims eerily familiar. Not because he knew Baldoni personally, but because the alleged behavior mirrored what Scarlett described years earlier. The quiet manipulation, the obsession with image, the way Ryan operated behind the scenes was completely different from the version the public saw. The charming, self-deprecating, funny guy adored by millions. Chris, like many in the industry, started to connect the dots. A pattern was forming: powerful people, controlling the narrative, and quietly turning Hollywood against anyone who didn't play along. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was calculated, strategic, and always wrapped in a smile. And now that he was feeling that pressure himself, the situation started to feel personal. Insiders say Chris noticed something subtle but chilling on set. Ryan's demeanor would shift behind closed doors. He wasn't aggressive, not directly, but there was a sharpness in the way he spoke when the cameras weren't rolling. A tension. It was like he was waiting for Chris to say the wrong thing, to miss a cue, or to push back on a line. One crew member reportedly overheard Ryan say, "Let's see see how Captain America handles this. Just before Chris arrived on set for one of the shoot days, it sounded like a joke, but the tone didn't feel like one. Some believe Ryan was testing him, waiting for Chris to push back so he could turn others against him, and the reason, possibly because of how close Chris was with Scarlett. That relationship, that loyalty may have been a threat. Ryan has long been known to keep his circle tight, and some insiders claim he doesn't take kindly to people still connected to his ex-wife, especially ones she confided in. To Chris, it wasn't just uncomfortable, it was revealing. It confirmed what Scarlett had told him years ago, that Ryan's charm was surface deep, and when he didn't get his way, the mask started to slip. Now, with Baldoni's case blowing up and more people looking at Ryan differently, Chris may be realizing that what happened to others almost happened to him too. While filming Deadpool, Chris was reportedly offered a few unscripted creative suggestions by Ryan, ideas that felt just slightly off. At first, Chris assumed they were just improvisational fun, normal for a project like Deadpool, which thrives on edgy humor. But as the suggestions kept coming, they started to feel more pointed. One insider claimed Chris was encouraged to do a scene that would poke fun at another Marvel actor, someone Chris had worked with closely for years. The joke wasn't lighthearted or clever, it was personal, and Chris felt uncomfortable delivering it. When he politely declined, Ryan allegedly became cold, distant, and noticeably less friendly for the rest of the day. The atmosphere on set shifted. Blake, meanwhile, was seen whispering to crew members and reviewing scenes at the monitor, despite not having an official role on set. Chris began to feel like eyes were constantly on him, analyzing every decision. The pattern was clear: play along with Ryan's games and you're in. Push back and you're immediately on the outside. Chris had seen this tactic before. Scarlett had described it in detail. She'd told him how Ryan would create small tests of loyalty, jokes, digs, setups, to see who would fall in line. Chris didn't want any part of that. He wasn't interested in burning bridges with fellow actors just to score a cheap laugh or boost Ryan's screen time. And the moment he chose not to participate, he knew something had shifted. He wasn't just saying no to a line, he was stepping out of Ryan's control. Chris Evans is famously low drama. He doesn't do messy interviews, doesn't chase headlines, and rarely addresses rumors. But recently, fans picked up on something he said during a podcast interview. When asked how he decides who to work with, Chris responded, "I trust my gut. If something feels wrong, I walk every time." He didn't name names. He didn't have to. When the host asked if he'd ever say yes to another Ryan Reynolds project, Chris smiled politely and changed the subject. It wasn't loud, but it was clear. What made the moment even more telling was how quickly fans reacted. Social media lit up with speculation, with viewers pointing out the sudden tension in Chris's tone and body language. Many said it didn't sound like a generic answer. It sounded personal, and when you pair it with everything we now know about what happened on set, Chris's silence might have said more than any headline ever could. For years, Chris stayed silent, out of respect, out of caution, maybe out of loyalty to Scarlett. He's never been the kind of celebrity to fan the flames of gossip, and he's always chosen professionalism over public drama. But there's a difference between staying quiet and staying complicit, and Chris seems to be drawing that line now. Now that the Baldoni lawsuit is gaining traction and more people are stepping forward, Chris seems to believe the time for silence is over. He's seen how far Ryan and Blake are willing to go to protect their brand. The media manipulation, the planted stories, the pressure they allegedly put on those around them. It's no longer just whispers. It's documentation, evidence, court filings. He's heard firsthand what they're capable of from people he trusts. He's watched their pattern unfold: charm in public, control in private. And after nearly being pulled into their web himself, he's done staying quiet. Because if someone like Chris, respected, measured, and deeply connected, felt even an ounce of that pressure, then how many others have experienced it and been too afraid to speak out? His voice could be the shift that changes everything. Chris Evans isn't the only one stepping back. Hugh Jackman has gone silent. Taylor Swift hasn't publicly defended Blake, despite their years-long friendship. Even Hollywood directors who once praised Ryan are now distancing themselves. There's a shift happening behind the scenes, a quiet reckoning, and the more people talk, the harder it becomes for Blake and Ryan to hold on to their carefully polished image. What was once considered a picture-perfect Hollywood couple is now being scrutinized like never before. Industry insiders say publicists are pulling back, executives are reevaluating deals, and A-listers are suddenly unavailable for joint appearances. The charm offensive is no longer working, and for people like Chris, who have built their careers on trust and authenticity, the stakes are too high to ignore. Chris was almost their next pawn, but instead, he may be the first domino to fall, and if he falls, others might follow. Chris Evans isn't just another celebrity, he's one of the few Hollywood figures the industry genuinely trusts. He stays out of the drama, avoids headlines, and never speaks unless he has something worth saying. So if he ever decides to tell his full story, it won't be speculation, it'll be undeniable. He knows what Scarlett went through, he's seen how Justin Baldoni was allegedly targeted, and now, after his own unsettling experience, Chris may finally understand exactly how Blake and Ryan operate behind the scenes. The question now isn't just whether Chris will speak, it's what happens if he does. If the truth really is as dark as the rumors suggest, could Chris Evans be the one to finally expose everything Blake and Ryan tried to hide? What do you think? Did Chris see enough to finally break his silence? And is he the key to ending Hollywood's most protected image? Drop your thoughts in the comments.